A warm welcome to everyone joining us from all over the world. We're here in Autodrom Most in the Czech Republic for race 3 of the Suzuki Swift Cup Europe. It's the round number 3 of the 2025 season. We've already gone to Austria and Red Bull Ring and to Poland at the beautiful track in Poznan. And now here in the Czech Republic, we're ready to see the final chapter of this third round of the season, the final chapter of the first half of 2025, with the cars now lining up on the starting grid for what is scheduled to be another amazing race here in Most. We are 1 hour away from Prague, and this is the final race of this weekend. Suzuki Swift closing out the program here in the Czech Republic. We've seen plenty of races this weekend. We've had plenty of fun. We're just ready for one more show to wrap things up in this rather cool weekend. Temperature-wise, we only have around 25 degrees in the air and just above 30 for the surface. It has been a tricky weekend weather-wise. We've had some rain, especially on Friday, but we'll talk about that later. Here is the starting grid for race number 3 with Bobby Sliziecki and Istvan Bernula on the front row, with Ester Nemeth and Jean-Bart Pinter in third and fourth. Pinter has taken the overall win in the last 2 races. He looks to be definitely the strongest candidate to do that again. Watch out for Bastian Frischmann from 6th on the grid. He has had plenty of reliability issues this weekend. He will be looking to finish this 2 days of racing on a high and perhaps with some points. This is the beautiful Autodrom Most. As you can see from the camera up in the sky, it is a 4.2 kilometer racetrack with 21 corners, 12 to the right, 9 to the left. And as we get ready to have a look at the race. We are bound to wait for the formation lap first. As you can see, the cars only have their relative engineers now on the grid. We talked about the potential trouble for Jean-Marc Pinter. He's won the first 2 races, though in the overall standings he does not amount to the actual 1.4 international challenge, which has therefore seen Esther Nemeth take home victory in race number 2. Here she is, car number 547, just in front of Jean-Marc Pinter. But we are now ready to start the formation lap and the final race of this weekend. We're going to have 20 minutes of racing plus 1 lap, as the formation lap is now underway. And for the final time this weekend, let us talk about the Autodrom Most, a 5.2 kilometer racetrack opened in 1983 when it broke ground as the first permanent circuit in the Czech Republic, though the city of Most itself has had a long history with racing, both with cars and motorbikes, ever since the end of World War II. We've had plenty of races around here, and then since the 80s, we've had this lovely racetrack that was then refurbished in 2005, adding the first chicane, which we just saw from the camera. And meanwhile, we are now seeing how the different cars are tackling the first half of the circuit, which is more centered around slower corners, which are by far the most technical of the entire track, at least at low speed. On the other hand, after this hairpin of turn number 10, drivers are released towards the second half of the track, which is made up of very fast and flowy corners that bring us all the way to the start-finish line. Meanwhile, we can see now the cars are going under the Orlen Bridge. That is turn 15, and one of those very flowy corners that we were talking about a couple of seconds ago. And the racetrack continues just like this up until the very final couple of corners, where you can see 2 very stark right-handers, where drivers need to carry as much speed as they possibly can in order to be quickest. Here is turn number 20, and then it will be turn 21 to finish the lap. And then of course we will see all the cars slowly but surely go towards the start-finish straight and into their grid boxes. And we're getting ready to have a look at what will potentially be the last race of this weekend, and potentially be another cracking race here in Most. We've had so much fun throughout these first few days of racing and throughout the first half of the season that we're ready to do it once again. Boris Lisiecki in first place, Istvan Bernula in second position. Those are the top 2 drivers that we need to be on the lookout for. And then Esther Nemeth on the second row of the grid, together with Jean-Marc Pinter, the guy who has crossed the line in first place in both races so far this weekend. But it's lights out and away we go for race number 3 of the Suzuki Swift Cup Europe here at Most. And it's an amazing getaway for Istvan Bernula And instead, a very tough one for Boris Liziecki, who's already down to 6th position. And as the drivers go towards turn number 1, it's Bernula in front, and then it's Jean-Bart Pinter in 2nd position. Esther Nemeth looked to have dropped to 4th, with Frischmann as well in the fight for a top 5 spot. He is currently 5th. Meanwhile, we have Vince Keller in 3rd position with the all-white Suzuki. Drivers now go towards turn number 10, and out front it is Istvan Bernula, the leader of the 1.4 International Challenge, a championship in which Jean-Bart Pinter does not collect any points. He is though the leader of the junior category. And here is the drone cam that has a look over the 2nd sector, went through towards turn number 15. There's also a battle between those guys in the 1.6 class. Of course, 2 different cars present on the racetrack. The 1.4 turbo-powered Suzuki and the 1.6 liter engine being the slower version, the older model of the car. Fighting in a 2nd category with Egon Burkush and Andras Bilko in front after the race start. Here we go in the meantime towards the end of the 1st lap, and Istvan Bernula is already under pressure from Jean-Bart Pinter as the Hungarian puts his compatriot under pressure. We go towards the opening corner of the race. Will Pinter try a move? He looks to the inside, but he's not near enough to make a move, even though Bernula maybe has slightly overshot the corner. And so with a cutback towards the inside line, Pinter has a better exit. He's now drawn alongside his compatriot. Could he potentially be in 1st place come the end of this little back straight towards turn number 6? The answer is definitely yes. As Jean-Bart Pinter moves into the lead, Bernula knows that his fight is not against him. Pinter has been mighty quick throughout the entire weekend and probably unreachable for many of the drivers. And now he's back in 1st. Bernula is in 2nd with Vince Keller in 3rd, right behind. Keller had troubles during race number 2, and he was out of contention for the podium. Instead, that went to Esther Nemeth, who finished in 2nd, and then as a winner in what was a phenomenal race earlier this morning, whereas yesterday we had the opening race of the weekend. Meanwhile, we go towards the end of lap number 2, and here is Vince Keller under pressure from Esther Nemeth. Let's see whether she is able to muster up a move up the inside. And meanwhile, it is an attack from Frischmann, who tried to make something happen into turn 1, but unfortunately he missed his braking point completely, even finishing the corner on 2 wheels. But thankfully, nothing bad happened. And of course, we are thankful that nothing really bad happened, but unfortunately the car of Vince Keller looks to be completely out of the running with extensive damage on the right hand side, and such a shame for Vince Keller, who's been hit by Bastian Frischmann. And you can see the rage of the driver who was in 3rd place. That is such a shame for him. But you know, it's been a tough weekend for him. But unfortunately, his race now comes to a close. Such a shame for that contact with Bastian Frischmann into turn number 1. And then this has left 3 drivers up top with Jean-Bart Pinter, Istvan Bernula and Esther Nemeth. Actually, Nemeth was quite quicker than Bernula in race number 2. So let's see if she's able to repeat that pace to go and catch the top driver of the 1.4 international category. Meanwhile, here's the contact. I was so close to becoming a disaster, this attack. But thankfully, nothing serious happened. And here is Vince Keller, definitely not happy with what happened. Meanwhile, here is Jean-Bart Pinter. Now in the lead with a 1.5 second gap over the rest of the field. Meanwhile, the contact, of course, is under investigation. Behind Pinter, there's Istvan Bernula in second position and then Esther Nemeth in third. Looking instead at the standings for the Suzuki Swift Cup 1.6, it is Benjamin Nagy in 4th place ahead of everyone, with Zoltan Ksuti in 5th, and second in class, and then it's Andras Bielko in 6th, just ahead of Boris Liziecki, who was starting on pole position but had that terrible start, and he's trying to get back through the field ever since. We had seen a tremendous defensive effort from Daniel Nemes earlier in race 2. Unfortunately, he's now down into 4th place in his category. Here you can see Jean-Bart Pinter looking for. Meanwhile, here is the aforementioned battle. And of course, it is what we have been looking for. The fight in the 1.6 category between the 3 drivers that we have been mentioning before. In front, car number 544, Zoltan Ksuti, just ahead of the rest of the field, whereas here we have Daniel Nemes, who is in 4th place in class, ahead of Egon Burkus and Gabor Forai. Naturally, of course, this is the fight in the 1.6 category. It is now only 10 minutes and 35 seconds left on the clock. Therefore, we're starting to draw closer and closer to the end of the race, and of course to the second half of this 3rd race of the weekend for Suzuki Swift Cup Europe. Meanwhile, there's the move for Gabor Forai on Egor Burkus. That is for 9th place in the overall standings, but crucially for 5th position in the 1.6 litre class. The 2 categories being defined by the engine that the cars are running. Either the 1.4 turbo engine of the newer model that you're seeing with the red and black car of Boris Liziecki from Poland, or the smaller and older version of the Suzuki Swift Cup car with a 1.6 engine fitted inside it. And that is, in the moment, Zoltan Ksuti second position for him so far. Meanwhile, here's the attack for Boris Lisiecki on Benjamin Nagy. They're of course part of two different classes, but it's always nice to see some battle and action on track, as Benjamin Nagy now is demoted to 5th in the overall standings, but of course he is crucially still in the lead of the 1.6 class. Meanwhile, we're seeing the gap out front become bigger and bigger, as Jean-Bart Pinter now has a 4.2 second lead over Istvan Bernula. Previous lap was a 155.3 for Pinter, a 157 flat for Bernula. So we're talking about a 1.8 second offset between the two of them. Meanwhile, Esther Nemeth has been getting closer and closer. She's only 4/10 back now from Bernula in the fight for second position. That's what we were saying a couple of minutes ago. Nemeth had better pace than Bernula in the second race of the weekend that we watched together earlier today, and therefore she was one to watch ahead of this race. Meanwhile, here still with Lisiecki and Kshuti, but here is the fight for second place as Nemeth looks to the outside into turn number 1. Not able to make the move stick, however. She's just trying to send Bernula wide and induce him into a mistake. Let's see if she can muster something up towards the end of the first sector. We now have a small acceleration part through towards turn number 6, where usually we see a couple of moves happening. Not now though, as Nemeth decides to wait. And she thinks she's better off like this, as she now looks to the outside of the hairpin once again to try and have a better exit towards them turns number 11 and 12. She looks to be much quicker than Bernula now, especially in this section of the race. With just 7 minutes and 14 seconds left on the clock, as the Suzuki Swift Cup Europe draws ever closer to the conclusion of its first half of the season. Meanwhile, here we go under the Orland Bridge with Nemeth trying to set up a move on Istvan Bernula. The gap to the leader is already over 6 seconds, potentially even more than 7 after this lap. We've seen how different the pace is, but to be completely honest, it was not unexpected, as Jean-Bart Pinter is not part of the 1.4 international standings, which is a fight, a two-horse fight between Istvan Bernula and Esther Nemeth, not just in this race but in the championship as well. And through the final corner, Nemeth seems to have a better run. Is she going to try and move perhaps around the outside into turn 1? The two come towards the chicane. Nemeth is already in front before the braking zone, but hard on the brakes goes Istvan Bernula, and he is able to stop the car in time. And that is great defensive work from the Hungarian, as Nemeth still has to crack this Rubik's Cube to try and understand how to overtake her rival. Meanwhile, the fight's still going on. As Nemeth looking for a move, she's trying out the over and under in turn 15. Perhaps, maybe trying something towards the latter part of the circuit, given how Bernula has been consistent in the braking zone into turn 1. So maybe Nemeth has to find some new parts of the track to attack. She's trying it now around the outside of the penultimate corner. Maybe switching the trajectory and the line through the final 2 corners, but once again it's Bernula in front. And now she will have all the slipstream coming off of the final corner to try and attack her rival. The 2 Hungarian drivers going at it for the win in the 1.4 international class and second place in the overall standings. Jean-Bart Pinter already 14 seconds in front, but so far so good for Istvan Bernula as we start what is likely the fourth to last lap of the race. So Nemeth still has a bit of time to try and fight for a spot on the podium and in second position for that matter, but alas, it's Istvan Bernula in second position so far. Behind them, Boris Lizecki has recovered up to 4th, which is nice to see. And meanwhile, in the 1.6 category, it's Benjamin Nagy once again with the lead, just like he's done in the first 2 races. Zoltan Ksuti in second position, Andreas Belko in third. There does not seem to be a real fight between the 3 of them. Meanwhile, the fight will be for 4th in that class, as Daniel Nemes, Gabo Ferrai and Egon Burkus are covered by less than a second. But of course, we have to stay with the top 2 here, as this is the fight for second place, but crucially for the lead in the 1.4 International Series. Istvan Bernula, the championship leader, coming into this weekend. The 2 shared 1 win apiece this weekend. As now Nemeth looks for a move towards the second to last corner. Will she be able to make it stick around the outside? Does not look like it, as Bernula places his car beautifully. Meanwhile, this is the driver leading the 1.6 standings, Benjamin Nagy. He's done an amazing job throughout the entire 3 races, as he has been consistently the fastest driver of his category. Meanwhile, in front, just less than 2 tenths separating Bernula and Nemeth, as instead we're waiting for Nemec to come into frame. Here he is, defending hard from Gabor Foray, and Egon Burgess is right behind him as well. Will we see a move from car 509 towards turn number 1 on Daniel Nemes, or is the latter going to defend as well as he has done so far today, considering race 2 as well, where he was able to finish in 3rd place in class, clinching a phenomenal podium lockup for Foray, who however is much tighter into turn number 1 line wise, and he is definitely able to have a better exit towards the 4th corner. Meanwhile, here is Jean-Bart Pinter, who's getting ready to start the penultimate lap of the race. We in fact have an additional lap after the one that we're witnessing now and the one that we're about to start. Here he is, starting the penultimate lap right about now. As we're getting ready to draw to a close in this race, Aston Nemeth still behind Istvan Bernula, the 2 fighting hard for the championship as well. As now Nemeth takes all the slipstream, Bernula has to defend the inside line. However, Esther is slightly too far behind her rival to think about a move. Almost looks like her time has passed for taking second position away from Bernula, but not all hope is lost. Meanwhile, the clock has reached 0, and therefore We're into the penultimate lap of the race. The format of Suzuki Swift Cup Europe being 20 minutes plus 1 lap of racing, meaning that they have a bit more time now to understand whether or not Bernoula will finish in second in this race. Meanwhile, here's the fight for fourth in the 1.6 category. Bit of a lockup for Forai once again, as the Hungarian draws ever closer to Daniel Nemes. Though he looks to be still behind his rival. Meanwhile, here we go with Jean-Bart Pinter as he moves towards the final corner, and he is about to start the final lap of the race here in Most. It's been another flawless performance from him. He's been dominating every single race this season in his category, part of the 1.4 Junior Trophy, not the International Series, which is instead fought between these two, as Bernoula and Nemeth are now going at it once more for one final time. As they are moving towards the last 21 corners of not just the race, but the entire weekend as well, before heading to the summer break for a month only of inactivity. Meanwhile, here is the fight for fourth in the 1.6 standings. Again, Nemes being so good in defense on Forai, who has been trying over and over again in the last two races to overtake his rival. However, to no avail. But we're getting ready now for Jean-Bart Pinter to come across the line and take home first place. He is now into the last three corners. Here he is, doing whatever he can to try and make things work, especially now that he is this close to victory. Well, it's been a phenomenal weekend for him, crossing the line in first place in every single race he's partaken in Most. And well, he has been absolutely unstoppable today. And as we are inching closer to the finish line, it's going to be Jean-Bart Pinter once again who crosses the line in first place here in Most for race 3 of Suzuki Swift Cup Europe. But the fight will be between Bernoula and Nemeth, as the two are about to go at it in the last two corners. Can Nemeth make something happen towards the final bend of the racetrack, taking a wider line to maybe have a better exit? But it looks to be Istvan Bernoula to take second place and the victory in the 1.4 International Series for just 1/10 of a second, 101,000th dividing the two of them, as Istvan Bernoula takes home second place in the overall standings ahead of Esther Nemeth. Boris Liziecki will be in fourth, and this man, Benjamin Nagy, will make it a hat-trick of successes in the 1.6 class. He has been flawless this weekend too. Thanks to a wonderful performance, he is now the winner of the 1.6 standings, just ahead of Zoltán Suti and then Andras Bilko. And then it will be once again Daniel Nemes defending long and hard on Gabor Forai, who will dream the back end of Daniel's car since the start of race 2 and up until, I think, the very end of the summer break. But that is everything from Suzuki Swift Cup Europe here in Most. And what a great race for Jean-Bart Pinter, as he once again crosses the line in first place. But the win for the International Trophy goes to Istvan Bernoula instead, as he crosses the line in second ahead of Esther Nemeth. These two have fought tooth and nail this weekend, with 2 wins for Bernoula and 1 for Nemeth, who at the end of the day was the better racer only in the second of the 3 races, with Bernula taking the honors in the other two as well. Now the cars, of course, nearing park for May conditions. And they are about to cross the start-finish line to then enter the pit lane. But here are the results. Jomar Pinter is from Bernula and Nestor Nemeth is the top three, with Boris Liziecki in fourth and Benjamin Nagy in fifth, but crucially winning the 1.6 category here in Suzuki Swift. What an amazing time for Daniel Nemesh as well, who is able to keep forth from the attacks of Gabor Foray and Egos Burgos. While unfortunately Vince Keller and Bastian Frischmann are out due to a crash. But here are the highlights of race number 3 of Suzuki Swift Cup Europe. And that's everything from Suzuki Swift Cup Europe here from Autodrom Most. We've seen 3 incredible races, and now the championship goes on a break as the summer break is now upon us. See you guys next time at the Slovakia Ring for round 4 of the season from the 22nd to the 24th of August. Thanks for being with us, and goodbye.